You're on.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen. 2014. We have a couple of different items on the agenda. Coming up to talk about one of the agenda items. But first, as in tradition this time of year, first agenda item is Board of Selectmen. And in the town of Dover, traditionally, the board member who's in their third year is chair, board member in their second year is clerk, and the first year board member would be member. So I have the honor at this point to nominate Carol Lisbon as chair for the upcoming fiscal year. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Carol. Would you like to make the clerk nomination?
Sure. So first, I would like to thank Jim. Jim had his third year as chair, and then because Mr. Milliken had resigned, we had agreed to split the chair 6 months and 6 months. So Jim then did another 6 months, and then I was due to become chair in January, and due to some family events occurred in my life this winter, I asked if Jim would be kind enough to extend his chairmanship for another 6 months. So he's been chair for 2 years. And I know you're a little short of it, but maybe you finally got it right. So I'd like to thank him for his 2 years as chair and for helping out this winter. I do appreciate it. And with that, I'd like to nominate Jim as clerk. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
And then third, Robin Hunter is who will be in our first year of the new term, elected this past Monday as a board member. I'll nominate Robin. Do I hear a second? All in favor? Aye. Good, thank you. Traditionally, what we do at this point is we move chairs. Welcome to tradition. You sit there, and I move. Thank you. Now I will move my.
No, you won't.
Pretty soft name tags too, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
That'll be official. Very good.
There.
Was there some confusion on that? Thank you, sir.
Okay, but even with the change of our roles as selectmen, we'd like to announce that we're not changing our roles relative to the project at hand of 46 Springdale. So Jim has agreed to continue as the general point person of the Board of Selectmen for the project, as well as the specific liaisons to the Open Space Committee and the Planning Board. I will continue as a liaison to Concom, and Robin will continue as a liaison to the Board of Health. So that will stay the same. The next item on the agenda is an update on the Springdale property. We had, a selectmen's meeting last week, so there's not a lot to update folks on. After the selectmen's meeting last week, Concom was meeting and discussing this at length. And they will be signing a contract next week with Paul McManus to do that environmental impact study that was discussed at the selectmen's meeting last week. So that's going along. And, I would say, based on the informal conversations that we as liaisons have had, that we're really pleased with the way that the various boards and committees are working together on this project on a town-wide basis. So that's great to see. I don't have anything else for an update. I'll open up the questions in just a minute.
No, I would just like to thank the landowner, Mr. Snyder, for allowing access to the property for the many boards that have to do the due diligence on our behalf. Thank you very much for that, Walter.
No, I think everything's moving along smoothly. And we're all targeted to get all the reports to us by June the 18th in preparation for the all-chair meeting or all boards meeting on June the 23rd?
26th.
26th.
Yes, did you announce that?
Right.
So, oh yes, we worked on dates last time. So June 26th, there will be a meeting, a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Health, the Planning Board, the Open Space Committee, Concom, and hopefully representatives of the Local Land Conservation Trust, which point will discuss all the reports that they have issued to us by the 18th. And that will be posted on the town calendar and email. So we've already approved an appraisal of the property, we've approved a survey of the property, Concom is approving the environmental impact study. One of the last things we need to do due diligence from a consulting standpoint is to approve a phase 1 environmental assessment of the property. So we have that proposal in our packages tonight from GDS Environmental Engineering.
This is the one Concom's going to execute, is that correct?
No, this is ours.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I was thinking of
The environmental impact.
Yeah.
So, Greer, Dave? Greer.
Yes, we have received a proposal from ADS Environmental Engineering. This is Andrea Stiller, a licensed site professional who worked with us on the underground storage tank removal and installation of an above-ground tank for a year and a half or more, and she did a fine job on that. So we asked her to submit a proposal for a complete phase 1 environmental assessment, and she has submitted this proposal, and her fee for that service would be $3,700.
Her mention of the information that's been provided to her to date, did that come from our office?
This information that Paul McManus provided her with through us. This information related to the property that he thought might be pertinent. So she had an opportunity to review that.
And she did commit to getting us a report by or on and around June 18th.
She didn't give me a date, but she understands that we need to get it completed timely, and she is, in terms of her calendar, available at this time. She actually just completed a similar phase 1 study in the town of Sherburne on the 61-acre property. She lives in Sherburne. So.
I remember this woman from the Carroll Community Center. She actually kept that job going. She does a very good job.
She does. She's very thorough. And yes, we were really, really impressed with her work on that.
Good.
Yeah, I would suggest that, assuming that we accept this tonight, that we make it very clear that June 18th is preferable, June 26th is mandatory.
Yes, understood.
We needed a day or two before. Some of us don't read, I guess.
So I guess I'd like to make a motion then that we accept the proposal from ADS Environmental Engineering dated May 7th, with the understanding that we will have a report by June 26th.
May I just move that to the 18th? Because we're really stressed to everyone the 18th.
Okay, 18th.
Second.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
What did you say?
Habits.
Go on. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. That's just terrible.
Maybe you should bring that undertaking.
I was saying I haven't used the Malinol.
Thank you. Two more issues on the Springdale property before we open it up to any comments and questions. We have two prior notices. I'm just moving it up on the agenda since it's related to the project at hand. The first is a prior notice from the Board of Selectmen's budget to cover the environmental assessment that we just approved. $3,700. The balance on the account right now is a little bit over $10,000. And the second is prior notice for the legal costs associated with this whole project. We have about $75,000 left in the budget. We're looking at an additional at least $10,000. And I would imagine, given the timing, that the legal expenses associated with town meeting haven't hit yet.
Correct.
So that 75 can be used up pretty quickly as those bills come in.
I agree with both. Technically, the name is going to have to change on the bottom.
Okay.
Can I just write that down?
Sure. Yeah, I can point it out and work over.
So I'd like to move we accept the prior notice of $3,700 for the Selectmen's budget relative to the environmental assessment and $10,000 for the law budget relative to 46 Springdale.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that's the last agenda item that we had for the Springdale project. So I'll open it up to any comments from the floor.
David Powers, Springdale Ave. I got the computer-generated email notice of this meeting. I received that today. I'm registered on the website. I was wondering if that's traditional that you send out the day of the meeting, or can there be prior notification, especially on the June 26th meeting? There was a lot of people who commented to me that they could not change their schedules. I understand you said it at the last meeting, but people don't necessarily take it all in, so.
Sure. No, I think it's absolutely fair that it should be done at least 3 or 4 days in advance.
Okay. I'll make sure we do that.
And I think the June 26th meeting is extremely important. We might want to get out of the heads up right now.
Right.
Since it's not been set, we know exactly what the agenda is.
Right.
So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Howard Fisher, Clovis Circle. At the last meeting, Mr. Dolly, Chairman Dolly at the time, had indicated that there was another 40B project that the town exercised their right of first refusal. I believe it was 287 Dedham Street. You asked me whether I was aware of it, and I had indicated to you that I was not. But to my point that I raised at the last meeting, according to the documents that I saw, the intent to sell, the notice of intent to sell, contained a purchase and sale agreement for $350,000. That was the price on that the seller had offered the owner of the land. And I understand in checking the Norfolk Registry of Deeds that the actual consideration paid by the town was $350,000. So I had raised at the last meeting the fact that under Chapter 61A, Section 14, the town has one choice and one choice only, and that is to meet the price of that's contained in the purchase and sale agreement, which to me presents a problem because is it the selectmen's understanding, or have the selectmen questioned council as to whether this could be separated the $4 million for the land that's currently under Chapter 61A? Or are you obligated to pay the 5.55, which includes the 3 acres, which is not under the jurisdiction of Chapter 61A?
Okay, first, just to clarify, the purchase, I think was just misspoken on your part. The purchase of 287 Dedham Street last summer was a Chapter 61A, not a 40B situation.
I meant 61.
Yes, I have figures, but just to clarify. So, Mr. Dolly, would you like to address that?
Yes, specifically, I don't know the logistics of how it was recorded, but the compensation to the landowner at the time was net of real estate taxes that during the clawback period. So I don't know how that's recorded, but I know that between private and public, it was less than the first, the P&S that you speak of.
I won't tell you, as a matter of record, the consideration of the deed. The same way if you buy a house, if you owe taxes, if the seller owes taxes, when you get a settlement statement, it shows whatever the purchase price is, and deducted from that number is outstanding.
We're talking about two different things here. That the landowner at the time wasn't forced to participate as a contribution. That's he. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but he volunteered his clawback taxes as part of the deal, and that's what I spoke of.
But it didn't change what the purchase price was.
Again, I don't know the logistics of how it was recorded. In my mind, the net dollars were less than the original P&S because of that real estate tax donation that he made.
But the gross dollars was the 350 less the clawback.
I see the point you're making, sir, and I'll get clarity in reconciling what my thought is, which is a net number, to what's been recorded.
Could you address the second inquiry that I had?
Say that again?
Could you address the second issue that I raised as to what's your understanding as to what you're obligated to purchase if you exercise your right of first refusal?
My understanding, and I said at last meeting, was that we have to stay within the constraints of Massachusetts general laws. And whether that says specifically the town has to pay the landowner X dollars, well, basically that's what we would have to go to the town with. If there's considerations in there for back taxes, the clawback period, things of that nature, and how that's recorded, again, I'll get clarity on that. So those are the considerations that we would take into account.
I don't mean to be rude.
No,
And that's not my intent, but I think at this point in time, you should ask legal counsel so that you can focus on what you're purchasing. I don't think that
we know the big number is $5.55 million.
So that's what you're focusing on.
Yes, that's within the constraints of Massachusetts general law.
Okay. And
Now, again, you go into, if the town decided to purchase the property, the Board of Selectmen decided based on feedback to purchase the property, subject to town meeting, then we would enter into negotiations with the owner for different considerations, knowing that that purchase and sale price is there.
And you
Now,
have
I'm not trying to be vague or anything like that, but I try to scratch and claw every penny back, to be honest with you. And all due respect, Mr. Snyder, you understand we have fiscal responsibilities. But I get your point. We know the big number. We would try everything within our power, legal rights, to reduce that number, and then try to enter into negotiations with Mr. Snyder. And quite honestly, I'm comfortable even saying these things right now, but because it gives some thought to what we're thinking about negotiations.
Right, I think we made it very clear, Mr. Fisher, to your questions last week, that we were not going to have a discussion in an open meeting about anything to do with strategy and tactics as we proceed. And I think we all have an understanding now that we have a purchase and sale of $5.5 million. That the law requires us to address the economic value of that purchase and sale agreement, and that's how we are going to proceed. Anything in more detail of that gets into our strategies and tactics, and we're just not willing to do that.
Well,
So I'm not exactly sure what your...
well, my point is, and again, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just suggesting that you question legal counsel as to what your responsibility is. And I think that you'll find, I give you an opportunity to speak. Let me say what I want to say. I think, rather than saying we have to, the figure we're looking at is 5.55, it does not appear to me that you have run that issue past council, and I'm only asking that you do so. That's all.
We'll add to the list of the many items we're running next. Anything else? Okay, well, that's it for 46 Springfield today. So I'll give you a time to leave, since I assume most of you are going to do that. Okay, the next item, we're just about on time, is a discussion about the renewal of the Carroll Community Center license agreements. This is something we do every year in June. We have the tenants over at the community center, 4 of them, that we negotiate a license agreement with each year. Erin Nance, the Child Development Center, Karen Talk, and Dover Automotive. So clear.
Mrs. Liston, in the past, the board has requested that the tenants sign a license agreement with a 5% increase. However, that has not always been the case. The board negotiated some differing amounts, but we are asking permission to ask the tenants if, again, if the board would like this, if they will enter into an agreement with the town for a 5% increase over the current monthly amount that those tenants are paying.
So I believe that last year we had started with the 5%.
Yes, we did.
How did we vote?
I don't see why we wouldn't start with the 5% again. I was just calculating the annual rents.
Oh, okay. So this year, fiscal year 14, looks from the 3 unique community centers, Parent Hall, Aries, and Child Development Center, that we brought in almost $109,000 in annual rent.
My thoughts on this, the tenants in place, they're all healthy. Economically, they can absorb this type of increase, and they haven't balked at any type of talk like this.
In the past, there have been some negotiations. We will find out when we negotiate with them what their financial situation is, but not that we are aware of any of their.
We were also working to try to equalize the square footage over time. Because there was so much variation when we first started the process.
Right.
So we're bringing some up more than others and so forth. So we need to take a look at that.
You take that into consideration.
Yeah, the reason
So were these all annual leases or?
Licenses.
Licenses.
The reason
Yeah,
I
it's all
thought
about
my question was to retention of attendance is much more efficient to give it take 1 or 2%, you know.
That's right, yes. There has been some flexibility on the board's part in the past in order to retain current tenants and
Good.
maintain those revenue streams for the town. Yes.
They're valuable tenants.
And they're good tenants.
And they're great tenants.
Yes, they are.
And they're tenants that bring a service to the town of Dover and its citizens and kids. Just waiting for a quick one. Okay, 108, 124, just those three.
Okay.
So I expect in the next month or so, we'll get those licenses.
Yes. Yes, and we'll start talking with them and getting them lined up for your consideration.
So just for informational purposes, could you also give me the square footage?
Sure.
Could you just redo this, or insert it just so I can do that?
I have a full schedule.
Okay.
I can.
That would
I
be
can
perfect if
Thank
you
you.
have it, and there's no extra work.
Thank
I think the spreadsheet that we used last year had square footage as well, a couple of years ago. I have something in my file also.
Okay.
I don't think it has to be reinvented.
That's when you're the new person on the
Thank
block,
you.
you don't have it, and you're
You have the joy of accumulating.
Something to look forward to, yes.
just cleaned out all my school committee. I stayed.
The next item on the agenda is Minuteman Regional School Committee. Thank you, Ford Spalding, for being here. I'm going to turn this item over to Ronnie.
Okay, so over the past few meetings, we talked about the amendment to the regional school agreement at the Minuteman School. At our town meeting, we elected to defer voting or accepting the amendment pending some additional information that we wanted to get. In the meantime, I just wanted to provide everybody with an update. As of today, 10 of the 16 communities that belong to the Minuteman region have voted to approve the amended regional agreement. 4 towns have done what Dover has done, is to defer the vote until they get additional information. 1 town voted no, and there's a pending vote. One of the towns has a town meeting in June, and we will get their vote after their town meeting. So a majority of the towns in the region have approved the regional school agreement. In our conversations with the other members of the region, we had expressed a concern about getting a majority of votes in order to withdraw from the region. And as Needham, to try and resolve this issue, because we weren't the only town, came up with what is now known as the Needham Resolution. And they were asking for boards of selectmen to put in place a resolution that would actually say that they would not, what's the word I'm looking for? Prevent a town from withdrawing from the region if they so wanted. As of today, 7 towns have passed this resolution, and I would like for us to discuss whether or not we would want to pass this resolution. Personally, I would recommend that we do. I think just as we want a commitment that nobody would prevent us from withdrawing, there are other towns that want the same commitment. And I think just in good faith with this negotiation, I would recommend that we also positively vote on this resolution. But I open it up for discussion.
This is a 1-year resolution.
I'm not sure there's a time frame on it because it does anticipate that the regional school agreement is accepted.
I've just seen within Desire to withdraw by one more member of the district to within 1 year of the effective date of the revised agreement.
Right, but
So-
because the agreement, it does not look likely that the agreement hasn't been fully accepted by all the
Yeah, but
communities.
say it was accepted next year.
Right, then it would
A
be.
town doesn't have to automatically try to terminate its, they can do it 3 years out of effect, which this resolution wouldn't come into effect then. Or am I missing something here?
This resolution was a response to some clauses in the proposed amendment, which is still just the proposed amendment, and it's not clear when it's going to be something other than a proposed amendment, so we don't have that time. That said that in order for a town to withdraw, other towns have to take a positive step to prohibit withdrawal,
Right.
right?
So non-action would not prohibit
Okay.
withdrawal.
Right.
That's fine, I understand that. Okay,
Yeah, I support this. I think it's a good faith effort by all the member towns to recognize that there are some that want to leave, and that the likelihood of getting all 16 towns to agree to a proposed amendment, whether it's this one as we've seen, or an amendment to the amendment, without some kind of assurance that our fellow towns are going to support individual needs. I think this is very important towards that.
I agree. Is it appropriate to ask Mr. Spalding a question? I believe the meeting
Sure.
met last night. Hello, Ford. Thank you for coming. I understand there was a Minuteman meeting last evening, and the size of the building was either discussed or determined.
Or
and
revisited.
Revisited. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, it was just a very preliminary discussion. We agreed on our next meeting in June to have a more formal discussion based on additional information that we're going to be able to get. But I think it's fair to say that the building, the last time the school committee dealt with it, was a building not to exceed 800, so it's up to 800. As you may recall, the MSBA said we want you to look at two enrollment numbers, 435 and 800. That was not our numbers, that was MSBA numbers. We have done that, but it was clear after we've been to all the towns over the regional agreement that almost nobody likes the 800 number, which is great information. So the school committee is going to look at reducing that number, but it's going to have to look at what the education plan would look like. It's not only education plan, but its entire program would look like. We also want to take a look at what the capital costs would be for a reduced building, as well as the operating costs, which has not been looked at, so we need to look at what we are guesstimating the operating costs would be. We also want to look at all the various schools in this area, career and technical schools, to see their availability. Are there openings? A lot of people say, oh, well, I'm not going to go to Minuteman, I'll just send my kids to Shawsheen. Well, Shawsheen has a waiting list, and therefore you're not going to get kids in there. So we want to take a look at all that information. I would dare say that the reduction will be somewhere between the 500 and 600 number, and it would be only for in-district kids. That's what we're driving towards. Or in-district kids would have the top priority to get in. So that's what the school committee is looking at this point.
So the contemplated smaller construction of the building, what's the existing student population? I thought it was greater
It's
than...
just shy of 800.
So,
The original building was built for 1,100,
okay.
back in
So
72.
that some 300 students are going to be displaced?
That's right. But and those 300 students will be really the out-of-district kids.
Right.
And
Which must add a lot of revenue to the to cover operating costs.
you hit it exactly. It's going to be, and that's one thing that we need to take a look at is if you don't have the out-of-district kids there, what's going to happen to the operating budget? Yes, you're going to scale down the number of programs. You're going to have less salaries for teachers and that kind of thing, but you need to take a look at that. Also, it's whether you use the existing building or part of the existing building or build a new one. But you're right, that's an awful lot of revenue you're losing.
Is there any state interest in ensuring that students who want to go to a career and technical high school have a spot available?
Well, do you want my opinion, or do you want? The answer is the state requires all communities to allow children who want a Chapter 74 education, which is a career and technical education. You need to allow them to do that. The question is are there facilities to do that? My opinion, and I know I'm on television, but my opinion is the state is showing very little interest in that. That said, the Commissioner of Education has just promulgated a regulation which needs to go through the approval process, but it would allow the Minuteman through the Department of Education to charge a facilities fee to out-of-district children, students that are under an MSBA program. So that, let's say Dover withdrew. And Dover wanted to send there, and we had an MSBA building project. Under this regulation, the amount set by the commissioner, not Minuteman, the commissioner, would be, you could add that on to the existing tuition. So that is something that's being looked at. The commissioner's taking it to the Board of Education, I believe in June. It then goes to the governor for his reaction. It will then go to public comment, and the anticipation is it will be voted on by the Board of Education in October to be effective in the school year 2015, beginning 2015. That's brand new. You know, Jim, I know, talks about brand new things. That's brand new.
Every day.
And that's why I supported the town of Dover's action, because there's just more information coming in.
Is the town of Dover okay, say we were a member of Minuteman, and the requirements to allow children to have access to a sort of that type of education, because we're a member of Norfolk, Aggie, does that cover our responsibilities?
The commissioner sent an email out and says, basically, if a town decides they don't want to be in the Minuteman School District, but yet there are other avenues, places for them to go, he's not going to stand in the way. Because as you know, you need approval from the district towns to leave the district, but you also need it from the commissioner. He's saying he's not standing in the way. That's an email. I've been at this game long enough to know I don't trust anything until it's in front of me.
Do you have any sense?
So I think that's why Dover made a good decision. Let's and I'm not panicked about when it comes up here, within the next year, to be honest.
Do you have any sense of the 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts? Do you have any sense how many do not formally belong to a vocational district?
You know, I don't know what that number is. There are an awful lot of career and technical schools, especially out in the western part of the state, but there are a lot in the eastern part of the United States. You know, up at the North Shore, Essex Aggie has been combined into the North Shore Career and Technical School, and they pulled those together. The state, the Education Joint Committee on Education is also studying this issue all of a sudden, and you know, I can get into political things, but I think how they think they should set it up. For now, we have to live with what we are. I would agree with the recommendation to vote for the Needham resolution, if only to be good neighbors. It really wouldn't go into effect until after it passes, the agreement passes all 16 communities, so we have a ways to go on that. And it's a resolution. It doesn't mean that it's black and white that you have to do it. You're just showing good faith that your intention right now, that you could have a new board in 3 years and a different reaction.
Well, that meeting we had in Weston last month or the month before, with so many representatives from the towns, it was very impressive. And I think it really showed how we can all work together to resolve this issue. And I think this is a major step towards that.
And that's why I think it's important, school committees, let me say that they need to be more definitive of what the size of the building is going to be, and not let MSBA tell them they need to come out and do that, and we're moving them in that direction.
Thanks, Ford. Anything else for Ford?
No, thank you.
Any other comments? Robin, you want to make a motion?
Should I read the resolution?
Sure.
Okay. That in the event of ratification of the revised Minuteman Regional Vocational School District Agreement as approved by the Regional School Committee on March 11, 2014, and in the event of notice of desire to withdraw by one or more members of the district given within 1 year of the effective date of the revised agreement, the Board of Selectmen will not place a warrant article disapproving such withdrawal in a town meeting warrant unless required by law, and will oppose such a disapproval article or motion in any event.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Robin, would you just like to reiterate our next steps?
So from the town of Dover's perspective, our next steps are to retain counsel. As you know, our counsel is conflicted, so we have to retain special counsel to review with us the amended regional agreement and answer some specific questions that we had. We then also want to have that council draft an intergovernmental agreement between us and
Between the school committee.
The school
I'm
committee,
unclear
right, that's what I
whether it's the Dover School Committee or the regional school.
between a school committee
I hadn't thought about that.
and the Minuteman Regional School Committee to allow, in the event of withdrawal from Dover by the region, that we could have 5 spots for Dover kids to attend the school. And then to package everything together with a letter that we will send to Minuteman, just telling them what Dover needs in order to ratify the agreement that we have.
And so basically, you're talking about a list of
Right.
issues that you had that you would like the school to address before you take this up at another town meeting.
Correct.
I did write Robin today. I said the only thing that you need to think about, I think it's fairly obvious, but to ask for changes in the regional agreement that's there probably would not work very well, because you need 16 communities to vote for, 10 have already voted, and they're not going to want to go back and redo it. That does not mean that you shouldn't have comments or reservations about any part of it as it affects Dover.
And for us, as we had said in town meeting, it's just really important that we can definitively answer some of the questions that we have. And as new information arises, it becomes easier for us to answer those questions. So we certainly are cognizant of that. And really, Ford, appreciate all the time you spend on Minuteman, and then all the time you spend educating me on what you just learned. So I really appreciate it.
It's probably one of the more difficult tasks I've had to do in my political experience. I mean, last night I walked out of the school, I don't usually walk out of school committee meetings, but I walked out at 10:30, a meeting that began at 7, because I could see it was going another hour and a half.
Well, thank you for representing Dover, and I know that the Minuteman School Committee is very appreciative of your work on this project from a building standpoint.
It's interesting.
And one last comment, I think that meeting with all of us in Weston was really effective, and I would encourage the Minuteman Regional School Committee to have more of those. It was very good getting information firsthand and understanding what the issues were from some of the other.
I think it's important to do that, and if there was a mistake made over the last couple of years, I think, other than Ford Spalding, Dover should have a representative at most of the meetings that are there. Carol did it for a while, but I think Rob and I look forward to having you go to Minuteman as often as possible. If you're the liaison, maybe Jim will take it over.
If they go till 10:30, my bedtime's 9.
Any one of the three of you would be a pleasure.
Now, if they had morning meetings, they have a great cafeteria there run by the students, and the food is really quite good.
That's right, I don't think Robin's ever had a meal there.
No, I'm just on my way to work.
There you go.
You'll have to wait till next September.
Okay.
Graduation is coming up.
Okay, thank you, Ford.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
that resolution, will you convey that to,
I will convey that.
I'll send Dan.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Ford. This is also when we set up our meeting calendars for the summer, which normally is once a month. Because of the Springdale property situation, we're going to be looking at scheduling some more meetings so that at least if we need them, we have them on the books. And then sometime in the next month or so, we'll set the calendar further September on. So we have before us the calendar for June, July, August.
So we already know we have a meeting.
We have June 26th is already booked.
Yes.
And let's just reiterate to get that onto the,
Constant comment.
yeah. So if we go with the 2-week schedule, we're looking at the week of the 2nd, but I can't make the 4th or the 5th, and I believe there's some other scheduling.
I have conflicts all that week.
I can't make the 10th or 11th the next week, and I know the 12th is an issue as well. How about Monday, May 9th? June 9th?
That's good for me.
Okay. And then just a little bit more than 2 weeks after, then we have a June 26th. That'll give us our 2 meetings in June.
Good.
Do you think we should do a meeting? Because we are expecting to get all the information in on the 18th. So should we just put a meeting in that week? And if we don't need it?
Well, I think the purpose of the 26th meeting is to go over all that
Yeah.
stuff and talk about it. I think the key will be that as soon as we get all the stuff, that I think that everybody get it. In other words, the open space report goes to all those different boards and committees and vice versa, so that every board and committee has the entire package of stuff. So everybody can look at it holistically without just in a little silo.
Understood.
So that'll give us time to do that. So 26th, so then we've got, then that would be the week of July 7th, would be 2 weeks after the June 26th meeting. I know you said Thursdays were difficult
Thursday's
for
very
you.
difficult for me.
So how about July 9th? Does that work?
Works for me. Works for
Okay,
me.
okay, Greer? Yep.
Yes.
So July 9th, and then 2 weeks after that would be the 23rd.
That doesn't work for me, Madam Chair.
Okay.
The 22nd, 23rd, I'm supposed to be at orientation with my daughter.
Oh, how exciting. Gotta go to that. Can't miss that one.
Can't miss it.
Oh, the stories when we get back. And Thursdays don't work, so we could we do Monday the 21st?
I'm open for that.
Okay, that works.
Thank you.
And then 2 weeks after that takes us to the week of the 4th. So what does August 6th look like, that Wednesday?
I'm good for that.
Okay. Make that one
Is
good?
that the
Yes,
first?
thank you.
Okay. And then that would take us to the 20th.
I'm traveling the next 2 weeks after that, so the 11th, week 11th to the 18th, I'm gone.
Good for you. August vacation.
Yes, actually.
Of course, it was France, we just take off the whole month. So how about August 27th?
That works.
The week before.
Oh, Labor Day's early.
Early. Can't be any earlier, huh?
No?
September 1st, or Sunday in September.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay,
Good, thank you.
great.
Let's see how many get changed.
Next item is an appointment. It's come to our attention at one of the last couple of meetings, we appointed Craig Hughes to be our representative to the MWRTA as part of our contract with them to provide a transportation van to our council on aging. And we've been informed by the MWRTA that when the chair of the Board of Selectmen changes, we need to take another vote.
See, this is your fault, Madam Chair.
This is my fault. I'll add it to my
You
list
didn't
of
want to do it for 3 years, Jim?
regulations. So we actually, every year, we will have to take another vote to re-elect, I assume Craig, to be a representative of the MWRTA.
Interesting. So,
Fascinating.
so we shouldn't appoint him until the end of May every year then, right?
Yeah, that would make sense,
Yeah.
actually, right, to have the new
Yeah,
chair.
good point, absolutely. So next year on the calendar, it'll be when we do our change.
Reorganization.
Reorganization.
Second agenda item. Good.
So I would like to make a motion to appoint Craig Hughes as our representative to the NWRTA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. But Craig, you only get out of it so many Probably I didn't attend the meeting. Okay, special licenses. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will just read them out and then we can just take one vote. We have on June 1st at Elmay. Okay, at Elmay, a wedding. We have at the Congress Center on June 11th, a Scotch tasting. We have another Congress Center on June 14th, a wedding. We have at El Mag on June 18th, a large dinner. June 19th at El Mag, a chef's tasting. And a Congress Center June 28th faculty meeting. So do I hear a motion to approve all 6?
So moved. Excuse me.
We got a moving curve
I
here.
know, I really.
Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Let's see, how we can sign it correctly.
Yeah, we just thought we had to shuffle the thing
Well,
around.
I'm gonna go away from everybody. All that pile signing at the top of my head.
Did you mess up?
Oh, I just did, the second I said it.
So you can do little arrows.
Yeah. Color code. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of the, lots of it, is the approval of the April 17th, we'll take that one first, one second meeting.
The April 17th one was the one that I wanted to change to be a little more eloquent on the, that was our first discussion on the 61A property we were discussing, and I had sent my revisions in. And perhaps they got lost because of our employee change in the office. Could be.
Yes, they were not received that I am aware of.
I hate to do this to you, but I just want to just add clarity to this.
Okay.
with the-
Okay, so we'll hold off on this one.
I'm sorry.
That's,
I know it.
you know, we were puzzled by your email saying I've already done this.
Yeah.
We thought that meant that,
Anyway.
yes,
I'll take care of that. Thank you. Appreciate your understanding.
yes, I'm sorry about the confusion on that.
Okay, so then we have the minutes of April 30th.
I have no changes to that.
No change.
I move we approve the minutes of April 30th as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we have the minutes of the April 30th executive session.
I have no changes to these.
Yep.
I move we approve the minutes of April 30th as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, we have no citizens comments, so,
I would just like to thank the townspeople who came up and voted Monday evening. Congratulations to the different people who were either re-elected or newly elected to the town. So congratulations and thank you for coming out Monday.
Robin? I have a few things. First, I know Felicia isn't here tonight, but she's been attending the Board of Selectmen's meetings for a while as our Board of Selectmen's assistant, taking care of minutes. And were she here tonight, I would personally congratulate her on being elected town clerk. As of yesterday, I think she's being sworn in early next week. So we'll miss you in the Selectmen's office, but it's going to be a pleasure to work with you as town clerk.
She'll be next door.
And she'll be next door, that's right. We also have a bunch of upcoming events. I think everything tends to get crammed into June before everybody leaves for the summer. They're all on the Nova website, but just to reiterate, Friday, May 30th is our Memorial Day celebration at 6 p.m. on the Springdale side of the townhouse. This is a wonderful annual event that's put on by the Memorial Day Committee. Our tradition in Dover is that we actually hold the event on the actual Memorial Day, not the Monday of vacation day. So for those that have not attended before, it's a nice day, come on out. We have our Chickering School band playing, and we've always had some wonderful speakers. And it's a great way to recognize our current citizens who are veterans, as well as to honor those that are currently serving. On Sunday, May 31st, from 9 to 1, is the Hazardous Waste Collection Day in Medfield. Dover does not hold its own, but there are a series of days like this in surrounding communities. They're all listed on the website under the Recycling Committee, and the details for the Medfield Day are on the homepage of the Dover website. On Sunday, June 1st, from 11 to 2, our police department is holding their annual open house. Always a great thing for citizens and lots of fun for kids. And on Saturday, June 7th, the Recycling Committee is having what hopefully will be the first annual Shredder Day.
I saw that.
Yes, so they have arranged with a industrial shredder company to bring in, I think it's on a truck, a big industrial shredder. It's being sponsored by Jay Hughes and Dover Country Properties. So thank you to Jay and Dover Country Properties. And it's the opportunity for folks to empty out their attic of all those boxes of old financial records or anything else they might have. So that's 9 to 12 on Sunday, June 7th at the transfer station, and that's always on the homepage of the website. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Good night, everybody.